You are listening to Here Before, Here Now, an Arizona's Family Originals podcast.
Hey guys, Colton here with another episode of Here Before, Here Now. So this next guest is pretty amazing to talk to this guy. I've been following him on social media for the last several years now, I think since the pandemic, and he's a writer. He is an Ivy League grad. He got his bachelor's degree from Yale University in film is what I read, and then he got his master's degree from Columbia University in creative writing. And what's cool about this guy's story, his name is Brian Young. He is from the Navajo Nation, so he's an enrolled member of the Navajo Nation, just like me. And when I was doing my research about this guy, I realized that we had some similar things appear or come to us, I should say, when it came to what we wanted to create and do. He wanted to see more Native representation out there in certain media. So he decided to create some of that stuff himself so that he could have a say and also provide some of that authenticity. And he's got a couple of books. I asked him to send them over to me. So he's got Heroes of the Water Monster right here and Healer of the Water Monster. So I was able to skim the first book a few pages in, and I love it because it has this amazing narrative of this little kid on the Navajo Nation. And what's really cool is he interjects Navajo words in through it as well. So Brian Young, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, yeah. Just real quick, I'm going to introduce myself. So,
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's Brian Young, and she taught technique initially go, taught the Zatne Bushes Chin, taught technique dash che, Ako, Sahis Getting Dashanella. I could take a his teen initially. Said so, do Nidges on it, that Nashangi, DJ, Brooklyn Dishgun. Hi, everyone. My name is Brian Young. I am going to be going by the name Brian Lee Young in the very near future because there's a lot of Brian Youngs.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. There's a few Brian Young authors as well. So I'm going to start getting the habit of using Brian Lee Young. I am originally from Fort Defiance, Sawmill, Noslini area of the Navajo Nation, but I currently live in Brooklyn with my two cats.
Cool. What's that like? I mean, being a Navajo person from the res and now living in, the biggest city in the world.
It's been my dream to live in New York City specifically because, growing up on the res, it's very open and not very many things to do, especially for a young person. It can be a little boring. And I'd always see these depictions of New York City and just that hustle life. And it's like, I want to live there. So it's been a dream of mine to live in, if not New York City itself, a borough such as Brooklyn.
Yeah.
And I love the food.
Yeah. Oh
the
my
food's
gosh.
amazing.
It's the city that never sleeps, right? I went to New York for the first time when I was in high school. And it was one of those things for me, too, where it's like, oh, my gosh, I want to, move to New York City. I want to go to NYU or Columbia and become a famous broadcast journalist. And,
Totally.
it's happened for so many people who I've worked with, who are living that life right now, which is amazing. And I'm so happy for them. But like now, when I think about it, oh, my gosh, the rat race, I'm sure is just like nonstop. And it's hustle, hustle, hustle.
It is very, very, very busy.
Yeah.
A lot of the people can say New Yorkers are a little rude as well, but I've also never encountered as polite people as possible as well. We are kind of like the nicest mean people in the world. Like, as long as we're kind of in our own world, like, we won't bother anyone. And like, if there is a dangerous situation, like, we all will step up.
Sure.
Random story. There was a person I saw kind of fall into the subway tracks, and like me and just other random dude just like jumped in immediately, like, get out. And like all of us, like, someone was already calling the ambulance to make sure that someone is coming in. Yeah. So just people being nice, but also like respecting each other's spaces, because space out there is in limited quality.
Yeah, you got like the elbow space that you're fighting for.
God.
Yeah.
I went to a restaurant last night and it's like, I can do this.
Oh, you can breathe.
I can do this and not bump into anyone.
Wow, that's amazing. My sister also went to Yale, and she graduated several years ago. But whenever we went to go visit her, we would fly into New York and then take the train up to New Haven. And so it was always so fun to go and visit and just like see all the cool touristy stuff,
You got to do that.
Yeah. Hang out and do everything. One of my friends became a producer for ABC News, and she took me on a tour for ABC, their headquarters, and I got to meet Diane Sawyer. And so, I know. Okay. I was like, oh my gosh. And it was so cool to meet her because several years before that, and we talked about this. She had done a story about the reservation. It was the Lakota reservation. Which one was it? It was up there in the, I think, South Dakota area, and it's just escaping me which reservation she actually went to. But she interviewed the people there and talked about some of the hardships that people were facing, but how resilient they were. It was a really cool special. And after that special, I emailed her actually. I was in college and I was, Diane.Slayer@abc.com. And I was like, just wanted to say, I saw your special about your spotlight on this Native community, and being someone who is Native and who wants to go into journalism, I feel like I am so glad that these stories are being told out there. Hopefully one day I'll be able to help tell these stories with this Indigenous Native perspective. And she emailed me back. Like, it was amazing. She emailed me back and she was like, oh, I'm so glad to hear that you like the story. It was very brief. And so when I had gone to visit her in person and I brought up that email, I was like, you might not remember this, but I sent you an email several years ago about this special you had done. And, she took a beat, she paused, and she kind of looked to the side like she was racking her memory, because you remember emails, right? And then she was like, yeah, I do remember that email, and I'm glad to meet you in person. So that was a cool experience.
Yeah.
Definitely was.
Kind of jealous of you.
Yeah, no, that was neat. But I mean,
Yeah.
I should be the one who's jealous because you've done so many cool, amazing things. You went to Yale, got your BA in film, and then Columbia. Tell me how you got onto this track of becoming a writer.
Well, as you said, I graduated with a BA in film studies from Yale University. It was around 2010, so it was a while ago.
Oh, okay, I'm right there with you. So
I did my senior thesis on self-representation in Native American communities. And at that time, I realized that Albuquerque was a booming film industry. And a lot of Native directors were kind of congregating in Albuquerque, New Mexico. So after I graduated, I moved there with the sole goal of, building up my film career. So I started getting into acting, did a little bit of modeling, and I was constantly writing my own short stories and feature-length scripts. But at that time, there was this really kind of racist attitude towards non-white representation movies. If you didn't have a white main character for your script, or a half-white character to attract a mainstream white actor, then you were just pretty much shoved aside. Like, we were literally told, like, you have to make your main character white, otherwise no one's going to watch your movie. And that attitude has lessened, but it's still pretty much there. And that's actually why I pivoted towards the publishing industry from the film industry, was because Healer, my first book of The Water Monster, was a movie script, a feature-length script. And I absolutely hated writing it as a feature-length script because I knew I'd be encountering those obstacles of being told that I need to make my main character white or half white so that a mainstream actor could play him. And for this specific story, for those of you who don't know, my first book, Middle Grade, the way I pitched it to my agent and to our publisher was kind of like a Navajo Percy Jackson, in which a young boy named Nathan finds a water monster from our creation mythology, Hajine Bachanet. And this water monster is sick, hasn't been able to sing rain songs. And as a result of that, there's been a 30-year drought in the area of Church Rock, New Mexico. So Nathan, the young boy, has to find out what's ailing the water monster, heal him, and return rains back to the land.
Wow.
So just the nature of the story of itself, of a young boy interacting with holy beings or deities, would require really, really expensive green screen and or CGI, or just be completely animated to do what I feel justice towards the story representation. And the more money you need, the more kind of financial backers you need and producers you need. And I hated writing it. It was so frustrating.
Because then you water yourself down.
Literally.
Right.
I dilute myself.
Yeah.
I'd have to dilute myself. So one day, I think I was like a third or 2/3 done with the story. I just thought, why not a book? Because this is like early 2010s, and like we're just kind of wrapping up the Harry Potter series. Twilight was still pretty big. Divergent was kind of sort of going around. So there are all these adaptations of young adults, high school age stories being translated into film. So I thought, why not, if I write the book first, demonstrate that there is an audience and readership for this story, then I can go back into the film industry and say, these are the numbers that I have.
Mm-hmm.
I have the power now. I'm not going to bend down to you. You're going to bend down to me.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, actually have the authority of the work that you create.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. And so how long was this process? I mean, from what I read, it took a while, right?
From when I had the initial dream that would eventually become the physical book, took about 7 years.
Oh my gosh. Wow. That's
seven long
crazy.
years. Yeah.
Oh man. Wow. And I'm sure with every industry, I mean, you hear no a lot. I read that you sent out your manuscript to so many different agents, and no was the popular response.
Yep.
Yeah.
I recently told this to like a high school class, like for every 100 no's, I've had one yes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the difference between failing and success for me, is that I ran with that one yes.
Oh my gosh. No, tell me about it. I mean, it's so true. You know what I mean? In terms of like, you're just thinking about your life and your path and things of that nature. And, I'm a yoga instructor on the side. So like, I read a lot of things about like the universe and like balance and everything. And some of the things that I encounter is like, the universe is working for you, and you just got to accept or trust the timing in your life.
Oh yeah.
Do you think that applies to you with your book? Because also I had read that when you had initially started it, it just wasn't ready and you weren't ready. But 7 years later, it just worked out. It seems like overnight, but it's a long time coming.
From the outside, it looks like I just hit one home run.
Yeah,
and
right.
not seeing all the thousands of misses that I've had
Mm-hmm.
to get to this point. I definitely had a lot of room to grow as a prose writer. Like I initially wrote the first draft of Healer of the Water Monster with very specific film techniques.
Okay.
So I had used Twitter back when it was called Twitter to attract the attention of it was like 50 literary agents.
Mm-hmm.
Like we had this thing called #DVPit, diverse voice pitch.
Mm-hmm.
And essentially you put a little blurb describing what your story is about. And then like any interested literary agents can then DM you and say, can you send me the manuscript? So through that, I got the attention of 50 literary agents.
Yeah.
And eventually they all said no.
Oh man. I was like, come on, why not one?
They all declined.
Yeah. Oh man.
But one said, if you ever rewrite this, send it back to me.
Yeah.
And after some crying and a lot of cheesecake, I saw the positivity in all those no's. I saw that there was an interest in the story in and of itself, that, the concept is strong. The concept is there. It's just my writing needed to grow. And that's when I decided to pursue an MFA in creative writing fiction.
Oh, wow. So that's another whole like track of a career then that you just kind of pivoted to.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me about that. What was your thought process on that end? And do you need an MFA in creative writing to make a book?
Yes and no.
Yeah.
There are aspects of the creative writing MFA program that were incredibly helpful for me. But to teach something as ethereal as like, prose writing and, your own kind of sort of style, that I think you need to do on your own. And that's not something you can learn externally.
Yeah.
But in terms of having feedback from other writers, other, creative minded people is incredibly valuable.
Yeah. And
in an MFA program, like that is your sole focus, is finding that feedback and finding that kind of support structure. It's actually how I found my agent, was through my MFA. Like my Columbia in February hosts an agent mixer with its third-year students and graduate students, or students have graduated. So that's actually where I met my current literary agent, was through one of the mixers.
Wow.
So there's value.
Yeah, absolutely. Right.
There's value.
Definitely. So you got 2 books now. So I read that you have 2 contracts, two book contract with the publisher. Mm-hmm. What's it like now to see all of your hard work, in these 2 books right here in my hand? Like that's got to be something kind of crazy.
Validating,
Yeah.
because I struggled a lot. It was no easy pickings. Like, it took a long time to get to this point to be able to have 2 physical books. And I have had so much amazing support from my best friend, from family members, from even just readers. Especially with the second book, having interacted with fans who have read the first book, like having their feedback say, like, I really love your book, was really, really helpful for me to continue writing, because no one tells you this, but writing's a very lonely experience.
Yeah.
Because you're literally in front of your computer, like, all day, every day for weeks on end. And then all of a sudden there's a book.
Right. When it comes to imposing or interjecting, I should say, your culture into your writing, is it difficult? I know when we talk about like the holy people, for many traditional Navajos, is something we don't talk about to other people outside of the community or during certain times. But putting that into the book, did you have any sort of like feelings about ambivalence of putting it out there for the masses?
I always viewed Writing Healer as a Water Monster as strictly marketed and directed towards young Navajo readers. They were my top priority. So any type of decisions regarding story, regarding character growth, regarding the holy depictions of the holy people, holy beings, was, how is this going to benefit young Navajo readers?
Yeah.
Because as far as I know, I'm probably the first Navajo person writing for young Navajo kids specifically, who is also Navajo.
Sure, sure.
So that is something that I've kind of had conversations with myself about with. But when it comes to the depictions of the actual holy beings, I asked, I tried to get 4 hatatlis, four of them. And to varying degrees, like 4 of them, I'm not going to say their names because I want to protect their privacy. I primarily worked with 2, but 4 was my goal because Benina, 4 is a sacred number. And if any of them said like, no, don't talk about this, then I take it out.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of really important restrictions regarding our culture and what we share with our culture.
Right.
Because a lot of people outside of the US, I'm not going to name countries, Germany, will take depictions of Native American cultures and kind of bastardize it into this weird faux powwow nonsense that's really incredibly harmful.
Yeah.
So I knew that whatever I share has that potential to do that. And I addressed it in my author's notes saying, you know, please don't take these depictions out of their context because they have a home, they have a place.
Yeah. Well, that's amazing, and that you stay true to that. I've always just been curious about the creatives who are Native or Indigenous, and put cultural or traditional beliefs out for people to consume. Which more power to you. I mean, like we're seeing more media and TV and film. Like for Reservation Dogs, you had the Deer Woman. You have Dark Winds. It can get kind of like scary. I don't think I can watch that show because it's a little bit too much for me. But it kind of invites other people to take a look at kind of the Native perspective and way of thinking. Are you okay? It's okay. You're good.
I think if what was the question?
So it just, I mean, having these out there, traditional cultural ideations and the belief system out there for the masses to consume, it just lets people in to our community a little bit more.
It does. And there is a lot of healing when it comes to owning our own representations that can happen. One thing that I found very interesting is in my senior thesis for Yale, I found this really amazing movie called Zacharias Kunuk's Artanajwat, the Fast Runner. And it was the first movie filmed in Igloolik in his traditional, I want to say it's Igloolik tongue as well. Man, Nunavut. The town's Nunavut, Igloolik is the language. And it's basically a retelling of one of their own traditional stories, one of their own creation mythologies. And everything in that movie is shot like how their ancestors had lived before colonization. It's amazing. It is phenomenal. But what I found even more amazing was how just retelling their own traditional stories, like essentially healed their own community. So for the town of Nunavut, suicide rates were for like 18 to 25-year-olds was around 40%. And
Terrible.
after Kunuk filmed Archanajuat, he himself went to like essentially chapter houses in his hometown and put this put this huge screen on and just it showed the movie to the community. And immediately afterwards, the CDC had been like, studying their rates, and that's where it got the 40%. I'm pretty sure it's 40%. It might be 38 or something around, but there is a marked drop in suicide rates by like half to 20%.
Wow.
And Zacharias Kunuk had written an application to the Guggenheim Foundation in the early 2000s. And in his words, he said, when our elders stopped talking, our children started killing themselves. How do we save our children from harming themselves by using our own traditional stories? There is healing in our traditional stories. I'm paraphrasing. It's not word for word, but that's pretty much like the message. And that's what I think is very powerful in owning and creating our own stories from us, by us, for us, is that there's healing in our stories.
Right. Absolutely. Same thing with kind of what I do here, wanting to report on issues impacting Indian country. Because, there's that nuance that we have, that perspective of certain things, like, I may not share what is considered success by Western standards. When it comes to land and culture and belief and tradition, more important than, the Powerball jackpot, which is at $400 million now. You know what I mean? It'd be nice to have that, but, but no, I totally understand what you mean. And so like by telling those stories and getting them out there to like share that perspective, letting people know that, there are other things that are prioritized over, whatever is generally accepted as being the pinnacle of whatever.
Yeah, totally. And also like it dispels stereotypes.
Yeah.
Like, especially living on the East Coast, there's still a lot of people that have uninformed impressions and expectations of what Native American people look like.
Yeah.
Oh my God. So when I was at Yale University, Twilight was pretty popular. I'm not lying, but I cannot count how many times like people would come up to me and say, "Can you turn into a werewolf?"
Oh my God. That's annoying. I'd be like, yes. When the moon is full.
It's like, what do you think? She's like, you can tell me.
Oh my gosh. Oh, that is so, and it's just like things like that, I totally understand how annoying that can get. And it's
not like just a one-off thing. It's like a almost daily thing where it's like, you're trying to live your day. And as an undergrad, like I was working up to like 2-3 part-time jobs, depending on the time, and taking a full course load, and just having these people like stop me in my tracks and like ask me, why don't you have feathers in your hair?
My God.
Just stuff like that. I'm like, I don't have the capacity to deal with this.
Right. Yeah.
And you also, like, being a minority way out there, like there's this added weight and responsibility of, if I react in a negative way, then that's going to color their interpretation of all of us.
Sure.
And I can't just be myself. I have to be this kind of token person with that weight of responsibility.
I totally see that. As someone in my position, I mean, you don't see any Navajo anchors, and especially in a market like Phoenix, or when I was in Albuquerque, there's a lot of, I guess, projection onto me, like, oh, you're the representative of your tribe. And it's like, a lot of questions too. Also, I do put myself out there in a public platform where I do educate others. So I feel like I'm okay with being the person who is trying to help educate those who have like ignorant perceptions, but at the same time, it's like, I'm not the monolith, and there's a lot.
I
usually
start off by saying, like, I'm only speaking about my experience.
Exactly. I can tell you about my experience, and as an urban Indian from Phoenix, I'm like, there's so many different layers of indigeneity identity, especially now. So it's definitely weird to walk that line. I married a white woman, so I have children who are half white, half Bilagana, half Navajo. So I can only imagine how things will be for them when they try to walk that same line. It's something that does consume me as a parent. So I'm thinking things like this.
Should read my second book.
Exactly. You know what I mean? Like it's media and literature like this and representation on television that I think will help form a better cohesive identity, because, growing up, I only had smoke signals to watch, and Joe Dirt, when they had, Adam Beach play that fireworks guy. But even that was a caricature. You know what I mean? So it was just kind of, one of those things.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. But we come a long way, right?
We're getting there.
So what's next, Brian?
I just got approved for, what is it called? Publication. My third book is titled Shards of Silence, is going to be released May 2026. It is based on the time when I went to an elite boarding school in upstate Connecticut.
Oh, wow.
And I was one of 2 Native Americans in that environment.
Okay.
And it also deals with the boarding school era.
Mm-hmm.
So that's coming out May 2026. And I'm currently working with my agents on securing another contract for on-contract manuscript that I have right now.
Oh, wow. Oh, my gosh. That's amazing. So things are in the works. Things are working.
Things are moving.
You got things cooking. When you come back to the Southwest, what's the first thing you do after you get off the plane from your fancy life in Brooklyn?
Chimichanga.
Chimichangas, yes.
Find a chimichanga.
Who has the best chimichangas?
I'm still trying to find it.
Okay.
What do you recommend?
Okay, so I really love, I go to Manuel's all the time. Their cheese enchiladas are so good. Their chimichangas are pretty good too. But La Piñata, right around outside the station, they've got some really good chimichangas also. Go there.
I'll definitely give it a shot.
Yeah, exactly. Some local business shout out. But Brian, thank you so much for being here. I can't wait to see more that you're able to do, and breaking down barriers, especially now. Native voices are needed. They need to be amplified, and they need to get out there. Stories and our voices need to be told, because it's just what we have to do, right?
Yeah. Work's never done.
Absolutely. All right, Brian, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
All right, that's going to do it for this episode of Here Before, Here Now. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Make sure you also leave a review if you'd be so kind. If you have any tips or if you have any ideas of guests down the line, please send me an email, colton.shone@azfamily.com. You can also find me on all the socials. That's going to do it for now. Till next time.
You are listening to Here Before, Here Now, an Arizona's Family Originals podcast.